Hey there, welcome back friends. In this video we will try to understand how to post a request and how to indeed add a resource in the database. Now friends, here is our app, and this is definitely a client, but we are still making use of a API type of methodology where we are making use of this get annotation, we are making use of producers annotation. So we will make major changes in this application and we will also do a post request. But before understanding the post request, let us understand the API which we will use. So here is the API URL. Let me copy this. And in here, let me navigate to Google Chrome and let me open up Postman. And in here, if we paste the URL, here is the URL where our API is deployed. So for example, we try to get the list of brands which are there in the database, then we will be able to see that there are two entities in the database. Let me also show you the database. In the database, there are two brands and the equivalent two brands will be shown in this particular response. Now, for example, we want to add a new resource. Then in our application where we have implemented the HATOS functionality, definitely we have the functionality of adding the resources. Let me show you. So here is the business logic where we have the method for post, we have a method for putting the information or updating the information, and we also have the business logic for deleting the operation. So our API have all the functionality ready and we can perform different type of operations on our API, right? Now our API is not capable of posting a new request, which we will see, but how the process will go is something first of all let us check. So whenever we would like to post some information, what we need couple of things. First of all, we want that what exact information needs to be posted and the format needs to be accurate. So in here we can easily see that we have two resources. First one is brand ID and then we also have the brand name. Definitely ID would be a auto generated thing and brand name is something which we will give. So in here, if I copy this particular sample and then use the post method and then paste the information in here, we can do that. So this format is what? This format is definitely JSON format and we don't want the ID. So we will simply pass on the brand name. So that is the first thing which we need to do. Alright, so in here the brand name could be anything. So it would be like new brand 7. Most probably the ID which will be assigned as 7. So we are simply giving the name as new brand 7. It would be a raw data, format would be JSON, and we need to also add a header where content type would be application/JSON. I had already tested this, so all the things are pre-configured, but if you want to add it, it would be very simple. It would be like content type application/JSON and everything would be in lowercase. Now if we send the request, definitely a new row will be added in the database. Let me show you. Let me refresh. Here we go. The ID is 9 in fact, because I have already tested and ID was incremented. The value is new brand 7, which is good enough. And if we check Postman, definitely we get a response back. So this is good. Status is 201. Now finally we will follow the same convention. We will do the same. We will request, we will add a new row in the database using our own client. So let's check that out. So in here, first of all, we will cut these 3 lines. These are the generic lines and we will paste it to our class level. We will get rid of this particular method and we will add a new main method. So now we will not make a web application, rather we will simply create a Java application. Let me get rid of all the imports which we don't need. Here we go. And inside this main method, Let us also do one thing in order to make things very simple. Let's make these three entities static. I am making these three entities as static in order to have the convenience of accessing these elements very easily. That's it. Alright, so in here we need to take help of a web target, and indeed web target is available to us. Now the target URL which is useful for us is already there when it comes to base brand URL. This is the URL where we have requested and added the information. So this URL is there with us. So it would be like base brand URL dot request, and we will request the media type as JSON, right? So we will receive the JSON response back. So it would be like media type dot application JSON string. Alright, so we will get a response back in the form of JSON, and finally we will post. Now friends, when we check the variations which we have when it comes to post method, there are like 3 versions, and all the versions at least receive the entity class. Now what exactly is this entity is something which we will talk later, but as of now this particular line will return a response. So let us receive this in a response variable. So it would be like response from javax.ws.rs.core and response equals base brand url.request.post entity. Alright, now friends, what exactly is this entity? Entity is the wrapped data. Whenever we receive the information, it would be in the form of entity, and we will talk about entity in detail in couple of minutes. But in here, compare this particular line that we need to perform a post request, compare the post with the post which we have just made. So when it comes to this postman, we have like sent in the data in the form of JSON. Now there must be some way in generating this JSON format so that we can push the data and post the data in the database, and indeed there is a way. Now in order to convert the information, we want a class which symbolizes this particular data, which is where we have the brand name, and the value of the brand will be passed by us. Definitely there needs to be a class with a variable brand name first of all before moving forward. So let us do that. So in here, before moving forward, let us create a new class. So it would be like new class brand, and the package would be org.steadyeasy.model, and we will click on finish. Alright, so now we have this class, and there would be a string variable by the name of brand name. We will add a constructor in here. So it would be like source generate constructor using fields, and we will also have the getters and setters. Here we go. So we have a simple Pojo in here, and now here comes the post method. So in here we need to give the entity, and we do have a entity class from javax.ws.rs.client, and using this particular class we can create a JSON response. So in here, if I show you, there are like multiple versions, right? There are multiple versions. We can create a entity of text type, XML type, class, JSON, HTML, and multiple types are there, right? And one of the type is definitely JSON, and JSON is something which is of our interest. And in here we need to pass on object of this particular class, which is brand, and the object will be converted in the form of JSON. So it would be like new brand. Here we go, and we will give the string as new brand 10. Alright, and let me format things a little. Here we go. Alright, so this is how we convert the class object in the form of JSON, and we will also post the information, and the final response will be received inside this response. And now let us simply print the response on the console. This is good. Now friends, before executing this application, let me show you a couple of things. This particular response is what? This is nothing but a wrapper class, a response with many information. This is nothing but a entity. And when it comes to entity, we have like numerous things which we can do with a entity. For example, if we check the options, there is a huge list. We can, for example, get the entity, we can read the entity, we can get the length, we can get the status, we can get the cookies, we can get the date, we can get the tag, we can get headers, we can get the last modified information and whatnot. There are so many things which we can get out of this response. Whereas when it comes to extracting the specific information, we will only get message. So for example, in here we call in the toString method, then we will only get the message. Whereas with this object, there are like more information which is available to us. We will talk about responses and the entity classes later down the line, but as of now, the toString method is good enough. And now finally, let us run this application. Indeed, we don't need this path annotation again. Let us get rid of it. Let me remove the import as well. All right, this is good. And now in order to run this application, we need to do something special in here. We have to run our API on the web server. So we will run this on the web server. It will take a couple of seconds. Alright, our RESTful API is up and running. Let us navigate to our app. Let me close this tab as well. And now this application is what? This is a very simple Java application where we have the main method. So we will run this as a Java application and we will get the output on the console. In fact, it will take a couple of seconds because there are like Hibernate calls, and in the database we will be adding some information, and here we go. Here we have the output. Perfect. We have got a proper response, and if we check the database and refresh the database table, here is the new entry. Perfect. So we are able to add a new information in the database. This is nice, this is cool, and the output is also good enough. In our next video, we will check a couple of more things. Alright, so this is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.